I am Twyla Jane, and this is Laterna Dance Company. And as part of 100 Days, 100 Books, 100 Places, and 100 Readers, we are here to show you a little bit in 3 dimensions the book 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And we're here at Root Force Personal Training, which is the home base for Electric Nomad Dance, which is my studio, which is nebulous and nomadic right now. But we teach dance classes. These guys are students who have been with me for several years. They're the performing training company, and they are going to be doing an exercise to the reading tonight that's going to push their limits with dance and incorporate some literature with it. So dance and books can be many things. So we're going to have a little experiment in that tonight. I've got my adventure hat on, and we are ready to go. Are you ready? All right. Amaranta Ursula returned with the first angels of December, driven on a sailor's breeze, leading her husband by a silk rope tied around his neck. She appeared without warning, wearing an ivory-colored dress, a string of pearls that reached almost to her knees, emerald and topaz rings, and with her straight hair in a smooth bun held behind her ears by swallowtail brooches. The man whom she had married 6 months before was a thin, older Fleming with the look of a sailor about him. She had only to push open the door to the parlor to realize that her absence had been longer and more destructive than she had imagined. "Good Lord," she shouted, more gay than alarmed. "It's obvious that there's no woman in this house." The baggage would not fit on the porch. Besides Fernanda's old trunk, which they had sent her off to school with, she had 2 upright trunks, 4 large suitcases, a bag for her parasols, 8 hat boxes, a gigantic cage with 100 canaries, and her husband's velocipede, broken down in a special case, which allowed him to carry it like a cello. She did not even take a day of rest after the long trip. She put on some worn denim overalls that her husband had brought along with other automotive items and set about on a new restoration of the house. She scattered the red ants, who had already taken possession of the porch, brought the rose bushes back to life, uprooted the weeds and planted ferns, oregano, and begonias again in the pots along the railing. She took charge of a crew of carpenters, locksmiths, and masons who filled in the cracks in the floor, put doors and windows back on their hinges, repaired the furniture, and whitewashed the walls inside and out, so that 3 months after her arrival, one breathed once more the atmosphere of youth and festivity that had existed during the days of the pianola. No one in the house had ever been in a better mood at all hours and under any circumstances, nor had anyone ever been readier to sing and to dance and to toss all items and customs from the past into the trash. With a sweep of her broom, she did away with the funeral mementos and piles of useless trash and articles of superstition that had been piling up in the corners. And the only thing she spared out of a gratitude to Ursula was the daguerreotype of Remedios in the parlor. "My, such luxury," she would shout, dying with laughter. "A 14-year-old grandmother!" When one of the masons told her that the house was full of apparitions, and that the only way to drive them out was to look for the treasures they had left buried, she replied amid loud laughter that she did not think it was right for men to be superstitious. She was so spontaneous, so emancipated, with such a free and modern spirit, that Aureliano did not know what to do with his body when he saw her arrive. My, she shouted happily with open arms. Look at how my darling cannibal has grown. Before he had a chance to react, she had already put a record on the portable phonograph she had brought with her and was trying to teach him the latest dance steps. She made him change the dirty pants that he had inherited from Colonel Aureliano Buendia and gave him some youthful shirts and two-tone shoes, and she would push him into the streets when he was spending too much time in Melchiade's room. Active, small, and indomitable like Ursula, and almost as pretty and provocative as Remedios the Beauty, she was endowed with a rare instinct for anticipating fashion. When she received pictures of the most recent fashions in the mail, they only proved that she had not been wrong about the models that she designed herself and sewed on Amaranta's primitive pedal machine. She subscribed to every fashion magazine, art publication, and popular music review published in Europe, and she had only to glance at them to realize that things in the world were just going just as she imagined that they were. It was incomprehensible why a woman with that spirit would have returned to a dead town burdened with dust and heat, and much less with a husband who had more than enough money to live anywhere in the world, and who loved her so much that he let himself be led around by her on a silk leash. As time passed, however, her intention to stay was more obvious because she did not make any plans that were not a long way off, nor did she do anything that did not have as an aim the search for a comfortable life and at a peaceful old age in Macondo. The canary cage showed those aims were made up on the spur of the moment. Remembering that her mother had told her in a letter about the extermination of the birds, she had delayed her trip several months until she found a ship that stopped at the Fortunate Isles, and there she chose the finest 25 pairs of canaries so that she could repopulate the skies of Macondo. That was the most lamentable of her numerous frustrated undertakings. As the birds reproduced, Amaranta Ursula would release them in pairs, and no sooner did they feel themselves free than they fled the town. She tried in vain to awaken love in them by means of the bird cage that Ursula had built during the first reconstruction of the house. Also in vain were the artificial nests built of esparto grass and the almond trees, and the birdseed strewn about the roofs, and arousing the captives so that their songs would dissuade the deserters, because they would take flight on their first attempt and make turn in the sky, just the time needed to find the direction to the Fortunate Isles. Richmond.
Is that how we're saying?
Richmond. No, we're going to say Richmond. Let's read.
Okay.
Richmond. Let's read.